Hey runners, ready to start burning fat on your training runs? Today I'll go over Dr. Phil Maffetone's two new updates to his maximum aerobic function or MAF formula for nailing your training heart rate for maximum fat burning. Then I'll explain how to use this approach if you're a runner in your 50s, 60s, or 70s with my unique reverse MAF approach. Welcome to the Forever Runner podcast. I'm your host, Herb the Forever Runner. So first, before we get into the updates, let me explain what the maximum aerobic function is and why it's important to you. So our bodies are designed to rely on fat as a primary energy source to sustain long periods of low intensity physical activity like your training run. Developed over the past 40 years by Dr. Phil Maffetone, MAF is a heart rate training based method designed to enhance health, prevent disease, and improve athletic performance. MAF is centered on personalizing exercise intensity to maximize your fat oxidation. Unlike conventional high intensity training, MAF emphasizes low to moderate exercise intensity, allowing you to build endurance, reduce excess body fat, and improve cardiovascular health without unnecessarily stress on the body. By monitoring heart rate instead of relying on subjective effort, it provides a more accurate way to gauge exercise intensity and keep you in that fat burning zone. Our body's energy system operates on a mix of glucose and fat. Fat oxidation is the body's preferred fuel source during lower intensity activities, while carbohydrates become dominant at higher intensities. For us older runners, maximizing fat oxidation is crucial. It supports mitochondrial function, enhances endurance, reduces disease risk, and minimizes stress on our bodies. However, most runners unknowingly exercise at intensities that reduce fat oxidation and increase reliance on carbohydrates. This working hard to get faster is all part of that flawed no pain, no gain mantra from the fitness industry. This is why there's so many overweight runners out there. They're just running too hard. But there's a better way. Research shows that training at or below your calculated MAF heart rate leads to increased fat oxidation or fat burning, improved endurance and performance. It reduces your risk of injury and overtraining, and it allows better long-term compliance with your running. You get out the door more often. So for the past 40 years, runners using the MAF training have demonstrated improved race performances, faster training paces at the same heart rate, and better overall metabolic health. So this is how the formula works. To start MAF training, we use a simple heart rate formula. You subtract your age from 180. So if you're 60 years old, 180 minus 60 would give you 120, and 120 would be your training heart rate that you would target. Now, there's a couple adjustments that need to be made for this number before you start using it. So you would subtract 10 beats from that number if you're recovering from an illness or taking medication. You would subtract 5 beats if you're injured or frequently sick, or you're just returning to running after a layoff. You don't need to adjust it at all if you've been training consistently for up to 2 years. So you would use that 120 heart rate without any adjustment. And if you've been training for more than 5 years without health issues and showing improvement, you can add 5 beats to it, or it would be 125. That resulting number represents the highest heart rate at which FACS oxidation is optimized for you. Training below this calculated heart rate ensures maximum aerobic benefits for you without overstressing your body. So let me go through the 2 updates to this formula. So the first one is, if you're experiencing chronic stress, then you would need to subtract 10 from your calculated MAF number. Now, chronic stress, the definition is a consistent sense of feeling pressured and overwhelmed over a long period of time. You'd have symptoms such as aches and pains, insomnia, weakness, less socialization, or unfocused thinking. So if you know you have chronic stress or you have those symptoms, then you would need to adjust your MAF training heart rate down 10 beats. The other update is if you're over fat. And what we mean by that is if your waist size is more than half your height, then you're designated over fat. So that's basically, if you've got that spare tire around your waist, that's a sign that you have some metabolic distress. And if you have that, then you need to subtract 5 beats from your calculated MAF heart rate using the 180 minus your age formula. So that's how the formula works. And the one thing I found out when I started doing this is once you get over 50, like into your 60s and 70s, the formula really starts to break down for us older runners, if we're fit. And it results in calculating a training heart rate that is just too low to maintain. Imagine trying to run at 110 beats per minute. I mean, most of us, you just can't do that. So because of that, Dr. Phil and other coaches suggest adding 10 beats to the formula if you're over 60. Now, this is something you have to play around with a little bit to get it right. And as example, I found that at 71, a training heart rate of 126 beats per minute has worked for me for actually the last few years. So it takes some time to kind of get this nailed down, but I would add one caveat to just adding 10 beats to the formula when you're older, and that's if you're actually over fat. It's more important for you to be very conservative with your training heart rate and to stay in that maximum fat burning zone until you lose that excess fat. So this means you might have to just walk for a while instead of running, or do a walk run to focus on burning off that excess fat before you actually can add the 10 beats to the formula and start your run training using the MAF approach. So, but if you're not over fat, I've found another way for us older runners to nail our best training heart rate, kind of using this approach, and I call it the reverse MAF. This is where you spend some time running at actually a higher heart rate before you start following your calculated MAF heart rate. And we do this to get you comfortable with running slow so your heart rate at that pace will actually start to go down. So The difference is in strict Maffetone training, you keep your heart rate steady and work on increasing your running pace. In reverse MAF, you keep your running pace steady and work on lowering your heart rate. And this is just to get you into heart rate shape to actually do MAF training. So the way I do this is we start out by determining what I call your minimum viable pace. That is the slowest you can run on level ground. So to do this, you do an extremely slow jog for 1 or 2 miles and see what your heart rate is. Now, it might be 10 to 15 beats higher than your calculated MAF heart rate. That's okay. Use that slow training pace for the next few weeks, and you'll notice that your heart rate will start to go down on your runs, eventually reaching what your calculated MAF heart rate was. Then you can go ahead and continue your training at or below your Maffetone heart rate. So I hope this is helpful. The main thing is slow down, lose the body fat, and enjoy effortless injury-free running as you age. So if you'd like some more helpful insights to your running, go to foreverrunner.com and sign up for my free weekly newsletter where I share helpful insights I've learned as an older runner. See you in the next one.